What's up, YouTube? It's me, HPJ here, and I hope you guys are doing extremely well. Welcome to another discussion video, and this time I'm doing it to celebrate the anniversary of the Dragon Rulers. Yes, if you haven't seen my community post, I am going to do a video on this and another archetype as well from Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, and don't worry, I will have that video up as soon as possible. But the Dragon Rulers are who we're focusing on this time around. They are a series of level 3, level 4, and level 7 dragon-type monsters, respectively based off of the attributes of the universe: fire, water, wind, and earth. Now, and as we know in modern days of Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's now additional Dragon Rulers that were released 10 years after the initial release of Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, which is the core set that the Dragon Rulers came out of. Now, some of you may know that the OCG did not receive all 8 of their Dragon Rulers at the time. The other 4, as we know them, as we call them, the Baby Rulers, were introduced in the selected pack that came out right after Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy did in the OCG. So it only took maybe about a week or two for them to have their full lineup for Dragon Ruler. And funny enough, in the TCG, they said, no, we're going to give all those slots to the Dragon Rulers. That's right, they gave 8 slots to the Dragon Rulers, and then even did this. They made them low rarity. The level 7 Dragon Rulers are all rare, and the babies are all common. Yeah, Konami knew what they were doing. And not only that, but they were the world champ deck that year. Yeah, Dragon Rulers took over 2013, even into 2014 for a minute before the ban list definitely hit them. Well, actually, first, the ban list did hit them hard during 2013 as September 13th of 2013. I know, right? Ominous. The TCG and OCG split their Forbidden Limited list, meaning that the TCG and OCG have not had the same Forbidden Limited list for the last 13 years. Some cards may be the same, but some cards are not the same depending on which version of the game you play, whether you play TCG or the OCG. And even more so now, I have to talk about the AE Forbidden Limited list regulations too, because China has their own Forbidden Limited list for Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. Longer story. But for the most part, yeah, we're going to be taking a look at the Dragon Rulers. And I can't wait to introduce you guys to these if you guys have not already been introduced. So, Blaster, the Dragon Ruler of Infernos. Burner, the Dragon Ruler of Sparks. Then we have Tidal, the Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls. In Steam, the Dragon Ruler of Droplets. Redox, the Dragon Ruler of Boulders. Reactin, the Dragon Ruler of Pebbles. Tempest, the Dragon Ruler of Storms. And Lightning, the Dragon Ruler of Drafts. These are all 8 of the Dragon Rulers. So let's move the babies out the way for a minute and just talk about the big boys on the screen right here. So these are the Dragon Rulers: Tempest, Tidal, Redox, Blaster. These are the ones most people will be talking about, if anything, because these are the ones that are doing the major plays. Each of them have the respective effects that you can banish a dragon and or monster of the respective attribute from hand or graveyard to special summon them from the hand or graveyard. Then, if they were special summoned, no matter how much of the condition, they are returned to the owner's hand at the end of the opponent's turn. So how do I word this? If you special summon these guys, and it's your turn, if they're still in the field by the end of your opponent's turn, they will go back to your hand. That is the regulation. And if they're special summoned on your opponent's turn, then they go back to your hand. The other ability that they have is that if they discard themselves in a particular monster of their respective attribute, they activate a corresponding effect. And then if they're banished, they add a dragon of their respective attribute from the deck to the hand. All of these are hard once per turns, meaning that yes, you have to make sure you choose exactly which effect you're going to choose, and that will be the only effect that you're going to be using for that turn. So be very cautious of how you do this. How did Dragon Ruler decks work at that point? You ran multiple copies of these guys. You also ran a whole bunch of dragons to support them, like Trigon, Ancient Fairy Dragon, Black Road. You had a lot of stuff you could manipulate with dragons because dragons had so many options. The major things were super rejuvenation, Dragoonity. Was it? Oh, Dragon's Ravine for the Dragoonities, Dragoonity tuners. You even had access to some of the basic dragon tuners like Debris Dragon. You can also play around with your hand traps like Valor of Max C. There was a lot of things with the Dragon Rulers, but ultimately, yes, this is how the Dragon Rulers themselves created a deck. You backed in like maybe 12 of the big boys, a couple of the babies, and you just went to town. And the major gimmick that the deck had at the time was all of the exceeds that you could make. Because yes, I will be talking about Big Eye and Draco Sack in this video because they were a major crucial part to how this archetype also oriented. Now, as for their baby forms, Lightning, Reacting, Steam, and Burner all have the ability to where they send themselves and a monster of the respective type of dragon or a respective of the respective attributes to the graveyard to special summon their adult forms, which were all locked on a hard once per turn themselves. Now, these guys themselves aren't too bad either. You know, they're just baby forms of them. They can be used in multiple decks as well, and trust me, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did do that. A lot of players did incorporate the Dragon Rulers as what they would consider extenders and or pseudo aces for their decks at the time. The crazy thing is the order that I have these in is kind of the order of how much use they really did get. Blaster and Burner were used a lot in Fire decks. Fire Kings and um, Fire Fist loved using Blaster and Burner. I guess you can also say that it's Hazy Flame for how long Hazy Flame lasted until people were like, yeah, no, here's some new support from Fire Fist, let's play around with those. And that's ended up how much of an impact that Blaster had. Blaster's unique ability is to discard itself on a fire monster to target one card on the field and destroy it, making it an easy removal card that Dragon Rulers love to play around with to get out of tight spaces. Tidal, the Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls, and Steam, the Dragon Ruler of Droplets, were used in Mermail and Merlantian. Let's be more precise, Merlantian, because Merlantian was a combination of both the Mermail and the Atlantean archetypes, which works perfectly well because when Fish, Sea Serpent, and Aqua start getting together, you know it's got to go down, and that's what Mermail exactly was. The get down of the get down for a water attributed archetype. And trust me, they did not spare any expenses. Being able to not only trigger a lot of the Mermail monsters' effects, but also being able to trigger a lot of the Atlantean effects, because if they're discarded or used for the effects of a water monster, they started triggering like crazy. So Tidal and Steam definitely helped out with that. Especially considering the fact that Tidal's ability to send monsters from the deck to the graveyard triggered even more abilities there. Redox, the Dragon Ruler of Boulders, and Reactive, the Dragon Ruler of Pebbles. Earth attributed decks were very scarce at this time because for the majority of it, Madolche was the only base Earth deck unless you played Machine, and even then Machine really was just Machina, and Machina at that point was like, well, we can still use Cyber Dragon as a backup. So it was more so of, well, I guess we'll summon Redox and play around with that if we need a big monster to help us do stuff. Gearkia Machina was also a thing too, but I don't know how much of an impact Redox was to them. Maybe just as a level 7 body so that they can exceed into Big Eye and Draco Sack. But really, outside of that, I don't really see much there because when you look at Tidal and Blaster, they had more fun with the respective attributed decks that they were playing it. Even more so Tidal, because Tidal was all over Mermail, helping with making Gaios and stuff. So it was really just like, I guess we'll fit you here for the Monster Reborn. But outside of that, I didn't really see much of Redux playing around in it. But maybe that was just me. Tempest. Hi, Tempest. You and I have some beef because wind decks during this time were only relegated to basically two factors, Dragoonity or Harpie. And Harpie at that time had already just gotten three major support cards. And Tempest kind of became more of the black sheep in this sense because most wind decks don't want to banish things to set up for Tempest. And then most of the stuff that were in regards to Dragon, Harpie didn't want to discard to go search for Pet Dragon. So it was kind of just like, well, I guess if I'm gonna have the extra harpies in the grave, I'll banish you to summon Tempest. Or if the Chidori and stuff was already in the graveyard, then alright, banish Tempest. Here we go. A 2400 beat stick that we can just poke around with. But really, at that point, if you had the Chandler and the Dragon already set up, you can just make Big Eyes and Draco Sacks. Outside of that, really, I think Dragoonity took the most use out of Tempest, besides just a pure variation of Dragoonity, because you can search for all the tuners in the deck and then use them for abilities and effects as well. I did at least try to put some Dragoonity tuners into Harpie at a point to run Tempest, but then at that point it was just like, no, just stick to the rank 4 engine. You'll be perfectly fine. Or play a couple of sevens, just in case. But at that point in time, it was really hard to want to use temp. It was you want to use them, but then you just don't want to use Tempest because you want to set up the graveyard to hit hysteric parties and then start popping cards like crazy. Especially later on because Dancer came out that same year. So that's the lineup of the Dragon Rulers. Really, there is. If there's any major things to talk about, is that they were the abundance of what competitive decks were at that time. Because they had a lot of things they had to compete with. First was Spellbook. Spellbook receiving Spellbook of Judgment in Tachyon really did pop off Spellbook. Because Spellbook and Dragon Ruler were competing for top spots at almost every major event. At that time because they could sit on Jaugen the Spiritualist, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, and use the Spellbook library to power. Spellbook Star Hall to power up Jaugen. It really was just like, wow, I can't believe Spellbook really got this powerful of a card, and they're using it just for lockdown. They also had like Secret Village and stuff too, so Dragoonity really had to play around with a lot of its resources to get rid of a lot of the threats that it had to deal with Spellbook. The other was Mermail, because Mermail not only used Tidal for their utilities, but you have to remember that Abyss Gaios shuts down a lot of effects as well. And Mermail can easily play with a good synchro engine too, making stuff like Crimson Blader, so that way their opponent couldn't have to touch them. Yes, there was mirror matches between Dragon Rulers, and basically at points it would become who can summon Crimson Blader and then shut off their opponent's resources as fast as possible, while also maintaining a board of Draco Sacks and Big Eyes. Then there was Madolche, which only really gave these guys much of a threat because of the returning the cards back into the deck and having to wait things out. Madolche was slowly becoming more of a threat over time because they were getting more pieces as time went. Then there was also Evil Swarm and Constellars that started coming out as rogue options, primarily because Ophion shuts down the level 5 or higher monsters for being special summoned, and Constellars just love bouncing stuff back by going into their rank 5 and rank 6 monsters, because Ptolemy in 7 was definitely a beast to deal with. The other rogue deck, of course, was Harpie, being able to also utilize their rank 7 engine to make Draco Sacks and Big Eyes, but also being able to play around with Chidori and Zero Fine. Zero Fine shutting down the board, and then, oh boy, Lightning Chidori returning cards to the top of the deck or the bottom on summon. So you had a lot of these various rogue options. You also had to deal with Fire Fist, who were still around, playing with either 3 axes, 4 axes, or 3.5 axes, making a lot of major plays with a lot of their major setups, making monsters that bounce stuff back, putting monsters onto the board to set up for the rekindling, the synchro into things. I'm telling you, 2013 Tachyon era was like major waves of things because you had so many options to play, and while you were either playing a rogue option, you were easily playing into the competitive options as well. And just look up deck lists and look up the time period of 2013. That shit got real. And it was really crazy because the minute Dragon Rulers hit, it became Dragon Ruler format. Sorry for the mermaids and stuff that had to sit on the side, but it was definitely became Dragon Ruler. Up until Dragon Ruler got hit hard and they banned all the baby rulers, kept the Dragon Rulers at like 2, and then ultimately at a point I think it was 2015 that they ended up switching the bans for the Dragon Ruler adults and then bring back the babies. Because what's the point of bringing back the babies when the adults are? I mean, what's the point of using the? What's the point now? Because you bring back the babies, there's no big dragons for them to play with, so now they just sit here as relegated targets for other things, which they did not get any use. So I'll be very frank with you there. Outside of that, really, I mean, Dragon Rulers did keep on a good presence for the time. So it was also just the fact that once Dark Matter Dragon came out, it was like, yeah, this archetype can go into Dark Matter, and they really don't care. I mean, even Mythic Ruler was a thing too that helped them get into Dark Matter Dragon. You know who the Mythic Rulers are? They're a water and a dragon pair that you can basically, if you had an earth monster, you can summon a Mystic Water Dragon. Mystic Water Dragon copied the level of any earth dragon monster that was on the field, and Mystic Earth Dragon had the ability to copy a water monster's level on the field as well. So basically, you would summon Mystic Earth, special summon Mystic Water, activate their effects to change their levels, and then go into rank 8s. You kind of see where I'm going with. Yeah, and the reason why it was called Mythic Ruler is because they were prime targets for Redox and Title, who did not have too many really big options to search for except for themselves and their baby forms. Now, I want to just peek into the extra deck a little bit because, as I did mention, Crimson Blader, who won't be making his appearance here, but the big options that I did want to talk about were two of the most expensive and one of the most budget. Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack was released in the same set as the Dragon Rulers in Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy. While this monster, in terms of its name and its whole setup, is supposed to focus on the Mecha Phantom Beast, Dragon Rulers love using this card as a first turn defensive option for setting this card in defense mode while having both of its tokens on the field to protect it from being destroyed. Then, during your turn, you would pop the token or the dragon or the Draco Sack to then destroy a card on the field, so that way you did not have to worry about things later. This is actually a good setup to go against skill drain because you can just tribute off the monsters and then pop the skill drain. Yeah, that was the thing. Skill drain was still around. The next thing up is in long terms, was actually Big Eye. Now, this monster came out a year prior to the release of. Hold on, let me move this over just a bit. There you go. This card came out literally a year before Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, and I believe if it was Galaxy Overload or Galaxy Overlord. I can't remember the original name of the set that Big Eye came out of, but I know it was a year prior to. And a lot of people were like, Big Eye's not going to be a use because there's no deck that generates a level 7 engine that fast. Even Machina was like, I mean, we'll touch it, but we don't really have a real use of it. And what ended up becoming it was just who's going to Big Eye the other person's Big Eye to Big Eye another card that the opponent controlled. And that's what a lot of matches became with the primary level 7 engine setup, was who's going to Big Eye to Big Eye to Big Eye. And that's ultimately how things ended up becoming what they were, was playing the game with Big Eye, stealing your opponent's monsters and going into crazy things and just trying to win the game as soon as possible. The only thing is Big Eye couldn't attack. Yeah, when Big Eye activated its effect to detach to steal an opponent's monster, you couldn't attack with Big Eye. You can attack with the monster you stole, you just couldn't attack with the Big Eye. So most people would steal people's Draco Sacks and start popping the Draco Sacks to pop other things on the board. Yeah, you would give your opponent materials back for the Dragon Rulers, but you're popping stuff on their field as well, or just creating tokens and then using the tokens to pop so that you can pop other things on the field while also still protecting the Draco Sack. Then make another Draco Sack or big eye to steal whatever your opponent is trying to steal, which is most likely going to be your big eye, to then steal your other, steal back the Draco Sacks and stuff. It's a lot of that going on at this time. Then Number Hunters came out that same year, literally I think a month after Tachyon, and I want to say it was June of 2013. And then we received number 74, the Master Blade. So this is another level 7 generic Xyz monster, and the unique ability about this was that during either player's turn, when a card or an effect that would target this card, you can detach a material from it to negate the activation, destroy that card, and if you did, destroy another card. So you had the option to destroy multiple cards on a 27 attacker who had, yes, 100 more attack points and 100 more defense points than both of the monsters that were at the most expensive level of the game. Not to mention, because this card was already in a set that was massively being produced and only secrets and ultras were in that set as it was, you were basically going to get away with getting multiples of these, because I actually have 2 Master Blades. And I'm still quite shocked of how a rank 7 pool never really included this guy, but at least tried to. And I'm going to be very honest with you, this is still a really kick-ass monster. I love the design, I love the setup for it. It's literally it kind of reminds you of like Assassin's Creed with how this card is designed. So yeah, it was definitely something I played because it was the bigger, but it was the easiest budget option. Not only that, but it dealt with both Draco Sack and Big Eye, because a lot of cards at that time, what they were doing, targeting other cards for their effects. What does Master Blades do? Negate the activation of that effect, destroy the card, and then it allows you to destroy another card. So welcome to what was sequentially expensive, and budget. And literally, yes, these two were both expensive because they were reaching the $100 plus mark. Draco Sack was originally a secret in its set, and so was Big Eye. And because Big Eye's popularity started to increase, they ended up reprinting Big Eye by the beginning of 2014 in Battles of Legend. No, was it Battle of Legends? No. It was the I remember now. Battle Pack. Yeah, because that was the thing. Battle Pack. Epic Dawn, or no, Battle Pack, for Gigantic Monsters, or whatever the hell it was named, but it reprinted Big Eye, and I think also one of them reprinted Draco Sack too. So that was also your other chance to get them, unless you waited for the 10s, which came out later that year, which ended up having the reprints for Draco Sack and Big Eye. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I've talked enough about Dragon Rulers for one video, and I'm sure there's many other cards that I would like to include, but I'll leave that to the comment section. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you guys so much for watching, and HPJ signing out. Take care. Bye-bye.